Welcome to the isbao, an international standard for business aircraft operations. This introduction to isbao will give you a broad view of the industry standard and explain how it may be applied to your flight department. The isbao was developed by the business aviation community as a professional safety code of practice for use by business aviation flight departments worldwide. It is quickly becoming a broadly accepted industry standard. isbao has been developed for any size of business aviation flight department or commercial air operator. It is equally appropriate for operators who conduct most operations within their domestic airspace using less sophisticated aircraft, or those involved in extensive international flight operations with large, complex aircraft. The International Business Aviation Council, IBAC, is a council of business aviation associations from around the world. IBAC represents your interests at the international level and provides the means for business associations to work together for the benefit of the global business aviation community. The isbao was developed by IBAC and its member associations with strong support from flight departments in Europe and America. The project was managed by a steering committee chaired by IBAC with representation from a number of its member associations. Throughout the course of the project, there was a great number of flight departments involved. The entire project lasted more than 2 years and was conducted in 3 phases. The first phase, which commenced in 2000, was a proof of concept. That phase involved the study of options and development of a recommended concept. The project team reviewed the regulatory frameworks of several states, the related ICAO standards and recommended practices, plus the operations manuals from a number of flight departments. They also visited a flight department that was ISO 9000 certified. From this, the project team developed a concept for the isbao. In June 2000, the concept was presented to a focus group having wide representation. The focus group accepted the concept in principle and made recommendations for further development. In the second phase, the project team matured the focus group recommendations. When this work was completed, 4 working groups were established to do in-depth reviews of individual sections of the draft. The working groups held meetings in Europe and North America to review the assigned sections of the standards and related guidance material and to make recommendations. Once the proposed revisions had been reviewed by the project team and all of the working groups, an integration meeting was held to develop the framework for the final draft of the isbao. The integration meeting was held in March 2001 and involved the isbao steering committee, the chairs of the working groups, along with several working group members. Following this meeting and further editing, the third phase of development was undertaken. This phase involved testing of the isbao with a number of flight departments in Europe, North America, and South America. The testing involved an audit of the flight department against the isbao standards, an analysis of differences identified, and cataloging of the actions to be taken by the flight department to be in conformance with the isbao. At this point, the steering committee reviewed the results of the work completed to date and the response from the flight departments involved. On the basis of this review and the strong industry support, the isbao was launched in May 2002. The isbao is based on the principles of ISO 9000, the international quality standard. It takes those principles and adapts them to the business aviation environment. It contains a series of performance-based standards that state what must be achieved rather than prescribing how things are to be done. A safety management system is the cornerstone of the standards. It is the key that assists the operator in developing systems and procedures that provide appropriate and effective processes for them to be in conformance with the isbao standards. Extensive guidance material is provided to assist operators with implementation. These principles provide the flexibility to be able to fit a broad range of aircraft fleet types and size in a variety of operations. From the operator's perspective, one significant feature is that the isbao provides a framework to develop a comprehensive system to integrate the management of safety, security, efficiency, and effectiveness. It is also noteworthy that the isbao standards meet the ICAO standards and recommended practices. This is a significant consideration to flight departments that conduct operations outside of their domestic airspace, where they may encounter differences in procedures, rules and requirements. Considerable effort has been made to ensure that the ISBAO is user-friendly. Extensive guidance material is provided, and the IBAC Standards Manager is also available to provide support. Operators who choose to do so may undergo an audit by an accredited ISBAO auditor and become registered as being in conformance with the ISBAO standards. The ISBAO standards reflect the hierarchy of issues derived from the best practices of the flight departments involved in the development process, various state regulations, and ICAO standards and recommended practices. As well as the previously mentioned safety management system, they address the minimum requirements for the flight department's organization and personnel, training and proficiency in flight operations procedures, including operational control system. These standards are constructed in a common-sense performance-based manner. For example, the basic requirement of the training program is to ensure that personnel acquire the competency to carry out assigned duties. Minimum requirements are also prescribed for conducting operations in international airspace. These relate to the ICAO requirements and are linked to the responsibilities of the state of registry of the aircraft and of the operator as specified by ICAO. The aircraft equipment requirements reflect those specified by ICAO in Annex 6, Part 2. The standards also specify requirements for the maintenance control system, company operations manual, and emergency response plan. Items such as environmental management, occupational health and safety, transportation of dangerous goods and security are also addressed. Guidance material is provided to assist operators in meeting the requirements for a number of the standards. This guidance material includes explanatory text and one way, but not the only way, of meeting the specified requirements. In some cases, the acceptable means of compliance are augmented by additional documents or by references to them. For example, the Flight and Duty Time guidance material is based on the Flight Safety Foundation Fatigue Countermeasures Task Force report and makes reference to it. The guidance material for operations in international airspace will permit an operator to prepare the procedures manual required to obtain an RVSM or MNPS approval. Guidance material is provided on maintenance control systems and systems for the certification of the proficiency of staff that have undergone training. Generic company operations manuals are provided as guidance material for meeting the operations manual requirements. A broad range of security guidance material is provided. It ranges from guidance on basic security procedures to the information needed for U.S. operators to obtain a Transportation Security Administration Access Certificate and for European operators to satisfy expected JAR Ops 2 security requirements. Operators can use the generic company operations manuals as the basis for development of their operations manual or to upgrade their current manual. The generic company operations manuals are available in the format generally used in North America and in the European JAR Ops format. ISBAO subscribers receive a hard copy in the format of their choice and electronic copies on the ISBAO CD. Guidance for development of a company operations manual is also provided. ISBAO implementation requires some effort, but with the guidance material provided, it is a relatively straightforward process. The time required to complete the implementation process depends on the size and complexity of the operation, the maturity of the operator's existing procedures, programs, and manuals, and the extent that the operator needs or chooses to modify them. Some operators have been able to complete the process in a few weeks, and others have taken several months. A listing of operators who have completed the implementation process and are willing to share their experience is posted on the IBAC website at www.ibac.org. As previously mentioned, the Operator's Safety Management System, or SMS, is the cornerstone of the ISBAO. Safety management systems are an evolutionary development of the traditional flight safety programs that are well known in aviation. An SMS takes those traditional programs one step higher by incorporating quality management elements. The ISBAO defines an SMS as the systematic and comprehensive process for the proactive management of safety risks that integrates the management of operations and technical systems with financial and human resource management. This definition highlights the importance of an SMS being systematic, comprehensive, and proactive. It should integrate the management of operational, technical, financial, and human resource issues into a comprehensive system that looks ahead to identify hazards and the associated risks that are inherent in the individual operation. Mitigation should be then developed to reduce the risk levels to as low as practical. It is important that the mitigation then be tracked to ensure that it is appropriate and effective. The guidance material includes an SMS model that was especially designed for business aviation. It contains a simplified risk profiling methodology that assists operators to develop appropriate and effective policies, programs, procedures, and manuals. The Operator SMS is the feature that facilitates the performance-based standards of the ISBAO. The most important aspect of the Operator's SMS is the company culture. The company culture is the basic values of the company, how we do things here. Accidents are sometimes attributed to the final sequence of events, but the cause is usually much more deeply rooted. For example, the investigation into the Columbia Space Shuttle accident found that the physical cause was the damage to the left wing by a piece of insulating foam. However, it also found that the organizational causes of the accident were rooted in Space Shuttle program culture issues, including reliance on past successes as a substitute for sound practices, organizational barriers that prevented effective communications and stifled differences of opinion, lack of integrated management across program elements, and organizational dysfunctions. The ISBAO Safety Management System model is designed to address these very issues. As with culture, safety starts with top management. Therefore, the SMS model requires a safety policy that is set by the owner, CEO, or equivalent. Within this policy framework, the first development step is to identify the hazards and associated risks that are inherent in the individual operation. Once the hazards and risks are identified, they are profiled so that appropriate mitigation can be developed to reduce them to an acceptable level. The mitigation strategies may include measures such as procedures, programs, training, or equipment. Once the mitigation has been developed and implemented, it should be tracked to ensure that it is appropriate and effective. Based on the information gathered, changes should be made to ensure that the safety management activities remain appropriate. Overly aggressive activities may result in excessive costs, and inadequate mitigation will probably be ineffective. Therefore, continuing efforts should be made to ensure safety management activities are appropriate and effective. To assist in this effort, external audits are recommended. Operators who have implemented the ISBAO may choose to go to the next step and undergo an audit by an accredited ISBAO auditor. Successful flight departments may apply to IBAC for registration. The certificate of registration demonstrates to the company executives, boards of directors, and employees that the flight department meets an internationally recognized code of practice. Many benefits have been identified by those who have been involved in the ISBAO or have implemented it. It will be of special interest to new flight departments and those undergoing significant change. It is viewed very positively by insurers and regulatory authorities. There are also strong indications that the European regulatory authorities will recognize ISBAO registration as one way of meeting the emerging business aviation regulatory requirements in Europe. As previously noted, an effective safety management system will reduce repeat errors and raise the confidence level of all involved. The ISBAO provides an effective vehicle to institutionalize best practices and to promote global harmonization along with recognition of a well-managed industry. Operators who have implemented ISBAO have provided a range of positive comments. IBAC has assigned responsibility for keeping the ISBAO current to a standards board. The board, which draws its members from business aviation associations and flight departments, meets at least once a year to review new rules and best practices and to determine if changes to the ISBAO and related materials are advisable. The IBAC Standards Manager is available to provide assistance to operators involved in implementation of the ISBAO. Operators and auditors receive the ISBAO newsletter, which is produced twice a year. Information is regularly provided by email through the NBAA airmail system. This system is also used when new guidance material becomes available or issues of interest are identified. If you are interested in an effective framework for the integrated management of risk, safety, security, and operations that will enable your flight department to effectively and efficiently meet your company's travel needs, you owe it to yourself and your company to become part of the gold standard for business aviation. Copies of the ISBAO may be purchased from the IBAC member national or regional business aviation organizations. They are listed on the IBAC website at www.ibac.org. Included are hard copies of the ISBAO standards and guidance material and the generic company operations manual in the format of your choice. There is also a CD with electronic versions of the ISBAO, the generic company operations manual in 4 different formats, the risk assessment guidelines, and the internal audit manual. With purchase of the ISBAO come regular newsletters, implementation support from the standards manager, and annual updates to all documentation for at least 5 years. This package will show you how you can use the ISBAO to integrate current business aviation safety and security initiatives into a comprehensive management system to benefit you and your flight department.